Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very senior and accomplished coach and mentor who's on a mission to empower 100,000 IT professionals from Sydney, Australia, Mr. Ehsan Ali. Ehsan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashutosh. Thank you very much. It's a privilege.
Thank you. Ehsan, as I mentioned, is a coach and a mentor, and he's on a mission to empower 100,000 IT professionals. And he runs a very interesting podcast, which is Empowering Indian Expats. So, Ehsan, let's first talk about your mission to empower 100,000 IT professionals. Tell me more, and also tell me what are the areas IT professionals need inputs.
Sure. So the number came in a very interesting way, Ashutosh. When I look at my career coaching and my outreach channel, what all I do to reach people. So one, of course, I have a podcast which reached about 23 countries in 6 months. Then I use a quiz, which I give it to people, 3 minutes quiz to run and assess where they are in their career. That has been taken in 12 countries. And then I post on LinkedIn quite regularly. So we're looking at all these different then I run a workshop, and then of course one-on-one coaching. So when I looked at all these numbers, I thought in a year I could probably reach about 25-30,000 people. And then I said, how do I keep myself more motivated? So I said, okay, make it 4 times and then come up with ideas to reach that many people. And that's how that 100,000 number in a year came.
Wonderful. And when you say empower, help me understand, in what areas do you think you can empower IT professionals?
Okay, so my focus predominantly is on mid-career professionals, Ashutosh. And when I say mid-career, 12 to 15 years to 20-25 years of experience. I guess it happens in other industries as well. So you, in 10-15 years, you reach at a stage and then you just don't know what to do to move from there. And you're kind of doing the same thing over and over. Number of hours are probably more, so you're burnt out as well. You're not finding meaning in the work you are doing. And then you have wall in front of you. You just don't know how to cross it. And that's exactly, I was in that situation many times during my career. So I picked up as the sweet spot that where I work. So I basically help people open up, you should be able to see through, look at a couple of channels that you can move on, and then create a roadmap for individual to move on that path.
Fascinating. And, when you say you are help people, you are developing careers beyond just making a living, what do you mean? And give me some examples if possible.
Sure, Ashutosh. See, most of us, when we get into a job, it's probably not driven by authentically who we are. It's generally what parents wanted. And for me, for example, I was good in mathematics. My father looked at me and said, "You got to become an engineer." So I became an engineer. Most people become somebody in their profession because parents wanted it, or they looked in their environment, they got inspired by somebody and just picked up that profession. But 10-15 years down the line, they start to realize, not sure I'm on the right path. Am I really doing what I'm passionate about, and does it really energize me, and things like that. But it's so late, they just continue doing it. So now it becomes just do it for making a living, pay the bills, raise children, send them to school, and things like that. Now, how do we really transition out from here and create a life where you are passionate, you are energized, and you feel like you are making an impact? So I was going through these kind of challenges. Every time I projected my life 10, 20, 30 years ahead, I shivered, thinking the same limitation of time, the kind of work I'm doing, the kind of impact I'm creating, the amount of potential I'm unleashing, and all of those things were very scary for me. So when I decided to go on my own, that was the thinking. So when I launched my podcast, that's why I said beyond making a living. So when I invite a guest on my podcast, who could be either somebody who have done pretty well in their entrepreneurial journey, or have done exceptionally well in their career itself. And when I say exceptionally well, again, not by the size of package you get and things like that. You are living authentically. You are doing things that you feel inspired by. So I'll give you two examples from guests from my own podcast. The first guest I had brought on my podcast, her name is Isha Oberai.
Mhm.
The lady went through mental challenges when she was in school, and after high school she started her career as a carer for disabled or old age people.
Mm.
Now she said the first day itself when I got in the job, I felt home,
Mm.
and then there was no looking back.
Okay.
So she then started a business in the same industry.
Mm.
One became 10, 10 became 100. Today she leads more than 1,000 carers across Australia,
Mm.
and that would be serving few thousand people.
Mm.
Okay, and she's driven by it. So
Mm.
business, of course, is a pretty good business,
Yeah.
but she's not doing for the sake of making a living.
Mm.
So that would be one example.
Yes.
On the career side, somebody who's living a career authentically and passionate about, I want to give you another example. There's a gentleman by name Abbas Kudrati. He is Chief Cybersecurity Advisor for Microsoft for whole of APAC.
Mhm.
So that's a role. But beyond that, he is in board for multiple companies. He teaches into universities. He wrote 2 books. And he also finds time to mentor young professionals.
Mhm.
This is beyond just the work.
Mm.
Okay, so that's what I meant by, and
Fantastic.
I wanted to find those story and share it to inspire myself and inspire others.
No, this is so fantastic. And what you're doing is something that I have always believed, that professionals need to be able to develop something significantly larger than just their work.
And that's where the energy comes from.
Correct. I agree. I agree with you. So, Ehsan, continuing that, you focus a lot on IT leaders and on mid-management career,
Yeah.
mid to senior
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
My next question to you is that what is the transition an IT leader needs to make to move to general management? And a lot of IT leaders are now running very, very large companies. Okay, they are tech companies, but the top 4 or 5 major companies in the world are now run by IT leaders.
Yeah. Again, I may not be the best person to talk about people who run Microsoft and
Sure.
all that kind of company, but with the information or limited experience I have throughout my own career, and I see a lot of very successful people.
Mhm.
If somebody wants to really grow in an organization, it's not really about becoming a general management person or anything like that. I think first important thing is you should be really, really aligned with the culture of the company.
Mm.
Because that's where again I look at those aspects of where the energy comes from.
Sure.
If you're not culturally aligned with the company, you don't really believe in the vision or mission of the company, then even if you become a leader, you will not really be satisfied, and you will not do your best job. So first thing I look for is when you want to transition is be aligned with the culture of the company, otherwise leave and go somewhere else. The second thing I would look at is understand the business landscape. If you want to get into leadership role, you just don't want to be a manager. You want to visualize one day you could run the company. And if you have to run the company, you got to really understand the business landscape rather than being that Java programmer or a payment architect. That's very limited view. So, and it doesn't really, it's not very difficult to understand the business landscape. When I coach people, I say, can you visualize this business that you work for as a grocery shop? I look at different aspects of a grocery shop. If you were running a grocery shop, you would take care of suppliers, you would take care of your stuffs, and they don't make sure that things are not getting expired, and all of those fundamental things. And then you prioritize and decide what is the most important thing that you need to focus on certain days. So that's the second part, which is getting to understand the business landscape, the regulatory related, compliance related knowledge. All of those things are required. Otherwise, you're just doing a technology work. The third very important thing I look at when people get into leadership is creating a brand within the organization of somebody who delivers, who's accountable. And when you deliver, now the world is changing to one more stage, which is it's not just about getting things done and delivering, but in that process, how do you deal with people?
Well said.
Okay, nobody wants to work with, so if I may have to say, the jerk who's like just wants to get things done at the cost of anybody. So even senior leadership looks at those kind of character in people. Can he be empathetic with rest of the organization? Can she be taking the holistic picture, or she'll be like pigeonholed in one area? So culture, good understanding of the business landscape, and the third thing I would say is a good leader, empathetic leader, rather than
Well
just
said.
getting things done.
Well said. Well said. So, Ehsan, I'm going to move to your next avatar as a coach and mentor.
Sure.
Uh, After, and you said you're an engineer, worked in the corporate world. What made you become a coach?
Very interesting question, Ashutosh. This happened when I was working with my business coach, and when I decided I would do something of my own. Again, the reason was I wanted to break out of the limitation and unleash my own potential. So we looked at a number of business ideas, and of course, it was a good business coach. So he made me relate to who I am, this 45-year-old guy, what he has done throughout his life, and what's his unique story, which can be brought out, and where you find energized and you can do a good job. So though I had put 3 4 ideas, it came down to I'm somebody who's been into teaching, coaching, mentoring since I was 9 year old.
Okay.
Because I didn't do any coaching at that age, but I saw my father doing it. My father was a simple middle class staff in a hospital, but he was pretty excited about teaching high school student in a lower middle class community. And whenever he would talk, he would be very passionate about it, and he would say, you know, one person makes a career, changes the lifestyle of the family for generations to come. And he would say that many times, and that kind of kept hitting me. I was one of those kids in that lower middle class community, and I became that first engineer. I was the first engineer in the whole community. So it was a breakthrough for me, because I had not seen an engineer.
Absolutely.
So the coaching and the whole teaching part continued in my whole system. Like I was always taught. Always, when I became an engineer, I coached a lot of people in my communities. There's some 10, 12 other kids became engineer. Then after graduation, I started teaching. I was teaching in Mumbai in Sardar Patel College of Engineering. I still remember that was my first job. From there, when I got in IT, I would do my job, and then I would talk to training department and pick up something, be it technology, be it process, be it any soft skills, and I would do it always. And as I grew in my career, I started to lead larger and larger teams, and there was a time when I was leading 100, 200 people. But this whole coaching and guiding people to make them do beyond their own expectation of themselves was always very dear to me, and I continued doing it. So now coming back to when my business coach did all this conversation, and when this story came out, I said, yes, that energizes me. So then we built business around it.
Fascinating. So, a follow-up question to what you just said, I remember when I was starting my career, I'm 65, when I finished my MBA and started working for ITC at 21 and a half. That was over 4 decades ago. Coaching or mentoring was done either by a family elder or by a senior colleague who took a liking for you. Today, people are willing to pay for coaching. What has changed in the world of coaching that it has become so specialized?
I would say not the world of coaching. The world has changed. The world has become a small village. Okay. So today we have more awareness of what's possible and what are the tools or what I could leverage to do better in my life or unleash my potential. Now, coaching was always there. So if you look at professional athletes, they always have coaches.
Correct.
When you look at CXOs or business leaders, they had coaches during those days as well. Now, there's a difference between coaching and mentoring, Ashutosh. Just to quickly talk about it. So coaching is an art and science, and it's a structure. Where the coach's role is to find out what challenges you are going through, what destination you are looking at, what are the obstacles in taking you from point A to point B, and how do we remove that obstacle by creating a game plan, being accountability partner with you, and helping you reach there. That's the role of a coach. Whereas mentoring or mentorship is not a structured approach. It's if you are my mentor, Ashutosh, you have experience and I learned from your experience. So Bill Gates had Warren Buffett as mentor. different industry, but he has achieved something which would have helped me. So there's a distinct difference between coaching and mentoring. Mentoring is always by people who have achieved what I want to achieve, and coaching is a very structured process to unleash an individual potential. Now that the world has shrunk and people realize, oh, if I'm not really having a coach, I'm probably not growing as fast as I want to. And earlier there were not much options. Now today there are so many coaches. So now you need to know what kind of coaches will be right for you. You find it and you do your part to get to the next level.
And Ehsan, every coach I have spoken to has their own way and unique style.
Yeah.
What would you say is your framework that you use for your coaching?
Good question, Ashutosh. Framework is definitely important. When I started, I realized just talking in every session and trying to do something wouldn't cut, and people are already pressed for time, so there has to be a framework. So my target audience or the professionals I serve are typically mid-career professionals. So what I have done is I have created a 3-step process for them, and very quickly, if I have to share with you, just think of a triangle with 3 sides. One side, call it clarity, second side, call it communication, and the third one is connection. So I just look at only these 3 parameters, and within that I've got 3-4 parameters. Within that I'm able to assess anybody where they are and then tweak each one of these. So when I look at clarity, people generally do not have clarity of what they want to do next or what's the best for them. One is what you want to do next and what is best for you. And which company will give you that opportunity.
Correct.
Who are the people who are already doing it, whom you can find as role models and learn from them. These things are not so clear, quite vague, so people don't take any action. So in clarity, I talk about 3 things. I say do your self-assessment to understand what energizes you, what are your core values, what comes naturally to you, then add your skills and experience. This creates a little bit of understanding about yourself. And then look at role models who have already gone that path. Do a lot of informational interviews with them. Now you will start to see a couple of really clear paths because you have talked to people who have gone ahead of you. The third thing I say in clarity is now look at companies. Don't go to a job because somebody is paying you more. Find a company that aligns with you, not other way around. And I find it sometimes difficult to really tell people that's the best way to do it.
Right.
Find a company that aligns with you, not you align with a company. Those are the old days. Those are gone. Now, how do you do that? Now that you have already introspected enough and you have talked to enough number of role models, you know your core values. And today companies are quite open about talking about their culture and values and things like that. Look at those aspects and then talk to a lot of people in those organizations. Chances are some of your role models are already working in one of those organizations.
Correct.
Chances are you will get in there even if there is no role open because you have done enough of clarity exercise. So I spend say 1/3 of my time on clarity, creating clarity for them. Then I say, okay, let's see whether we are communicating right. Today, an employee is not an employee. Every individual has a business, and I call it business of you. So if you have a business of you, it's your responsibility 100% to market and promote yourself. So so the second side is communication, and I say in communication, got to look at 3 aspects. One, how do you communicate your business value? Right? If you are an architect, what do you really add value to the organization? Are you able to streamline certain things so they spend less or increase their speed to the speed to market, the speed to market, or they reduce cost or whatever? Look at the end result. What do you really add value? So what's your business value? As a professional, you have a journey and you are uniquely placed and nobody else can compete with you. What's your unique value or unique selling point? So that's the first part of communication, where you identify your business value proposition and a unique selling point. And most people know they haven't really introspected enough and thought about it enough, or they don't probably know how to articulate it. Once that is done, then now you are a business of you. How are you creating visibility in the marketplace?
Right.
What do you do to create visibility? And I say first thing you do is whatever area of work you are in, be part of the professional body. You are a project manager, be part of PMI and whatnot. If you are in cybersecurity, be part of ISACA and so on and so forth. Because that's where people congregate. Of your industry, of your niche.
Correct.
And if you are there, you will start to build relationship. People will start to know you. Chances are you will not need to apply for a job, because if you project your value proposition enough and in conversation you talk about it, they'll remember. And if there is something coming up, they'll say, hey, talk to Hassan or talk to Ashutosh, he would probably be the right person. And of course, engage with senior leaders. That's the second part of the communication. Third part is, of course, building authority. And when I say authority, people kind of shrink in the beginning. They say, I'm not senior enough. What do you mean? Even if you're a developer, say SQL developer, you write your thought about SQL development. You could have a blog, you could write article on LinkedIn, and you could share your knowledge in conference. You can write on a magazine. There are so many opportunities today. You sharing your opinion on what you know is thought leadership.
Correct.
I kind of make it very easy for people. You could be a thought leader even if you have just graduated.
Okay.
And today you got to develop authority. You just can't say I'm not a leader yet. So that's on the communication side. And final one is, of course, connection, Ashutosh. Everything is about whom do you know and who knows you. So I typically teach them 3 stages. I look at their network and see how that can be utilized. Then I teach them how to expand their network. And then I look at the third aspect of how do you build new connections that's not part of your network. And if you have to do that because you have dreams and goals that cannot be achieved with the current network. So that's where I talk about the connection part. So clarity, communication, connection, that's my framework. And I'm pretty much able to help so far everybody I have coached.
Amazing. Clarity, communication, connection. Wonderful. So I have time for one more question, Ehsan. And since you work with a lot of mid-level executives, a lot of them would probably be millennials or Gen Zs beginning to come into levels of middle management. I want to get your perspective on how is this younger generation of leaders changing organizations? Because from what I have seen based on my work with them, they have a very, very clear mindset of what expectations they want or they have.
Yeah.
What is your perspective as a coach, and what are the areas you coach them on?
So, no, good question, Ashutosh. So, within Australia, I am connected with a lot of university students. Of course, they have some sort of clarity. They're more talented than our generation, no doubt about it. But what happens within the organization, it has to be worked out from both sides. People who are 1 or 2 generation ahead or people who are coming up. It doesn't matter if it's Gen Y or Gen Z. It's all about the generation gap and understanding each other. And respecting each other's values. The values have changed. Their value is different from my value. But if I try to enforce my value on the new generation, it's not going to work.
Right.
The intention, if I'm a leader of the organization, my intention should be, how do I unleash potential of this individual? How do I work around his value rather than me enforcing my value on him?
Right.
And same thing has to happen from the younger generation. They are in the all world. So the attention span is very small. And that's something probably, coaching and mentorship would help. If they can carry their attention longer, listen to the older generation a bit more, and then shape themselves up in a better way than thinking that I can just do everything on my own. The young blood, when I was 20, probably behaved the same way. You would have probably behaved the same way. This generation also behaves the same way. There's not much of difference. But I think within the organization, it's all about understanding the value.
Right.
It could be not only about the generation. Today we work in a global village where people are coming from different countries. And they carry different background, different values. So respecting each other's values, respecting each other's aspirations, and then aligning and working together with a clear idea in mind is the whole goal is to unleash everybody's potential to reach the end goal of the organization. If we keep that the framework in mind, I don't see any problem with the generation gap.
Wonderful. Ehsan, on that note, thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about your amazing mission to empower 100,000 IT professionals. Thank you for speaking to me about, the amazing framework you employ for coaching and the triangle that you explained to us in great detail. Thank you again and good luck.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you for inviting me on this platform, the brand called you. You're doing an exceptional job. You're giving back to the society. It's an amazing work, and looking forward to be connected.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.